Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome to episode 4 of the Optional Content Show. So let's go ahead and get down to business, and let's go for an overview. There's no special guest tonight. It's just gonna be me again. So technically, last week's episode was supposed to be episode 4, but we're going over to this week because OBS was mean to me and was bullying me. So no episode from last week, but it's just going to be all the content is pushed to this week's episode. And so yeah, that's how it's going to be. And also, if you hear any background noise, I apologize. My dad and some other of his friends are building a bed in the room right next to me. So quick overview of my holiday. Christmas and New Year's is just passed. This is probably the most boring New Year's I've ever had since we didn't go anywhere. But regardless, it was a good New Year's. I got to stay up, but I had to go into work the next morning to leave halfway through. Sorry. As I was saying, that was not. So at my job, we we had a winter camp through the week. Excuse me. And I had to work the last 2 days, which coincidentally were New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So that was not very fun, considering almost nobody showed up to either of the days. So I didn't get to work that much anyway. So a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today is the year-end review of 2020. And then we're going to talk about prevailing companies, like movie and delivery companies that might have grown a lot since the pandemic began. And then we're going to be talking about new COVID phrases. I'm willing to bet that some of you may have heard the phrase no shoot, no shirt, no service. And that might turn into no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. So that's just basically a quick overview for that. And then just a quick reminder that I'm always in need of topics and always in need of guests. If you want to come on to the show, message me on any of my socials or on any of that stuff. So if you want to come on or if you want to submit a topic, you can feel free to do that. And then I need a logo for the stream in specific. I already have a logo for my channel, and if your logo is chosen and later on down the line I end up doing a printing service, if I ever do that, then you'll get a little bit of compensation for that. So if I like your logo enough and it looks cool, then that's the one I'll choose. So if you want to submit a logo, you can get me on any of my socials there as well. Let's see. Yeah, so that's all the announcements. So for the year-end review, I'm gonna just kind of go through from January to right about now. So about a year ago, I was on Camp Bullis for New Year's, and a little bit before that, I'm in the Civil Air Patrol, and it was the basic encampment. It's a long story and a story for another day. But I was there, and we weren't allowed to have our phones, so I was basically cut off from the outside world for a while. And when I got back, I started going through all my socials. I was going through Instagram and stuff and looking at all these World War III memes, and I'm like, what are they talking about? I was so confused. And then I got some stuff filled in that there had been an attack on Iran, which had killed an Iranian general. And it really almost did start World War III because there were videos of people in, I believe, the Iranian government, I'm going to say that. But I'm not confirming anything because it might have been fake, but I saw this video that was of a ton of Iranian people screaming or chanting "Death to America" in Iranian, and that just kind of scared me because that meant that some crazy stuff could happen, and I just didn't want crazy stuff to happen. And then, so that was January, and COVID was kind of popping up. I made a video on COVID a while ago talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't think it'll spiral out of control, and blah, 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 and here we are today, wearing masks everywhere outside of our own home. So I believe in February, that's when the first COVID cases started popping up around the U.S., and it seemed like everything was being contained really well. You were like, oh yeah, it's not going to come to us. So everybody was just getting a little skeptical in February, and then in March, about halfway through, I still remember the day right before we went to lockdown. I remember it was a Tuesday. We were all just talking about some random stuff, and I look over at one of my friends and was like, hey, I think we have a quiz tomorrow. And he just reacted really funnily. If you know who you are and you're watching, thanks for watching, I guess, but you know who you are. So February was just kind of skeptical, and then March, we were like, it's getting a little bad. And then we shut down in the middle of March because someone's mom might have been exposed to a possible positive case. And now if someone is even exposed, it doesn't matter like where you are, you're just gonna go like you're gonna be quarantined. But if you've been exposed to a possible one, then you're gonna be the only one quarantined. But it was because the kids had been exposed to their mom. I don't know who it is, in case you're wondering, but they had been exposed to their mom, who had possibly been exposed to a possible positive case. So lots of possibilities, and then it ended up that possible positive case was negative, and then we still ended up going into lockdown and getting off early. And then shortly after, I believe that week, all the other schools in my general area had closed, and we were all out of school. And we were like, yay, extra spring break, haha. And then 3 weeks later, when we're still on spring break, we're like, oh boy, this is a little longer than spring break. But going back a little bit, I remember the very first day we'd gotten out. I was lying in bed, and I woke up to the sound of my mom talking to my little sister. And it was Wednesday, and I took a zero period, I believe my first semester, so I was still kind of in that kind of just mindset of I have to wake up early on Mondays and Wednesdays, because that's when I had to go be at school super early for the zero period. And I was just thinking, oh, I gotta get up and go get ready. And 90% of the time, it was dark outside. It looked like it was like still nighttime outside when I woke up. And so I was just kind of chilling out there, or I was lying down in bed, and I woke up, and I'm still kind of like adjusting from sleep to awake. So it takes me a while to like realize some certain things. And one certain thing that I didn't realize is that it was like daytime outside. So I was like, what day is it? It's Wednesday. And then I get up and run over to my little sister's room, and I'm like, hey, why aren't we at school? And she's like, well, there might have been a case. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go find something to do. So I went and I just went and did random stuff, went about my day. I was a little more cautious. And we actually stayed home for a couple weeks on end, and like we couldn't go anywhere. And I still remember right before it was a super, super, super strict lockdown, like no businesses were allowed to be open. I went to my gym just to kind of say hey and bye, I guess, and just kind of screw around for a little bit, because I was doing online workouts pretty much every day. And when I went back to the gym for the first time, it was still like, oh, I feel so weak. I'm just doing nothing, bro. It was just crazy. So that's March through April, towards the end of April. So mid-March through late April. We were in quarantine, and that's when things started getting well enough to where we could go back into semi-normal life. But of course, we're still not even in that normality of what we had prior. So in April, there was some. This is when like things start really spiraling out of control. And then May, June, July. That's when all the protests started popping up, and there were a lot of crazy threats towards some ethnicities of people. But I'm not going to get too deep into that because I don't want controversy on my podcast. Regardless, that stuff was going on around then, and it was getting pretty crazy out there, and I kind of had to just look over my shoulder just to make sure nothing crazy was going to happen to me. But around in the summertime, I was living in a rental house before I got this bigger room that I'm in right now to get this studio. We were living in a rental to renovate our entire house, actually. So we were living in that rental, and it was really close to my gym. And I was doing summer camps during the summer, making a lot of money. So I could wake up in the morning, bike to the gym, work in the morning, work out in the afternoon, work some more after my workout, and then go home. And then that'd be pretty much every day of the week. So pretty productive, close to the end of the year, or close to the end of summer. And then in August we had the Beirut explosion in Israel, in Lebanon, I believe, which is somewhere in the Middle East. I'm not completely familiar with that, even though I kind of should be. But if you've seen the videos of that explosion, it's mind-boggling. You just see it and you're like, whoa, like it's huge, it's crazy. Yeah, so that was the big deal in August. In September, that's when we started going back to in-person school, and lots of precautions were being taken and all that crazy stuff. Masks were still being worn. Some people are allowed to wear gloves, and not much has changed since then to present day. Yeah, so in September we started going back to in-person school and doing all that. And then in what am I thinking about? What is the next? October. In October, there was Halloween. It was one of the first Halloweens where I did pretty much nothing. I actually watched The Sixth Sense on Halloween, just with my family, because it was like highly recommended not to go trick or treating. I think we saw like a couple families with like their toddlers walking around our neighborhood, just kind of walking around for the fun of it. So I just kind of felt sad because I was like, man, there are some toddlers out there who aren't going to be able to grow up having a Halloween this year anyway. And then it's going to be especially hard on those who have actually had one before, and I just felt bad for them. Yeah, so that was October. I can't think of anything that's really coming to mind. And then November and December, not much crazy stuff has happened. But COVID cases are on the rise. I think it was mid-December. Early mid-December-ish was when the first vaccine, I believe it was by Pfizer. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me on that. But the Pfizer vaccine was approved, and then several more vaccines followed and were approved. And as of right now, the country is currently being vaccinated with the high-risk groups being vaccinated first. And as I said a couple episodes back, that's completely fine with me, considering I have to wait anyways prior to actually getting the vaccine. And when I do get it, I'll have seen a lot of the other population who've gotten it. I can see, like, does it make people go crazy? Like, am I gonna go crazy? Am I gonna get some crazy side effect that makes my head explode or something like that? Like, I'll be able to see what the side effects are before I actually get the vaccine. So I see that more as an advantage, but also it's kind of like, oh, you still, even if you wanted to, you can't get it. And I was like, okay, okay then. And then December, the vaccines were being shipped out, stuff like that was going on. and then we had Christmas and New Year's. And for me, it was just kind of stay home. Christmas was pretty normal. I got a new headset, and it has these cool LEDs. And then I got a new sound bar, were the main big things. And we're very close to getting a new PC. I'm gonna build my own because it's cheaper that way, and I want to have something to be proud of besides a desk chair and a bed frame. Alright, so that is my year-end review of 2020. Moving on, gonna go to prevailing companies like movie/delivery companies. So this is a slightly controversial topic, but not as much as some of the other stuff that could have been covered in the year-end review. But regarding prevailing companies in the pandemic, this is regarding to things such as like DoorDash or Uber Eats or Grubhub or things like that, where they're delivering food to your house because then it's safer for you to not have to go out, risk yourself, and go and get food. But to be fair, it's really just other people going out and getting your food and then bringing it to your house. So some people might say that it's less of a risk to go and get it yourself than to have someone else going out and get it for you. And then the other prevailing companies, in my opinion, that will be doing really well are sanitation companies and spray, bleach, wet wipes, hand sanitizer, all that type of stuff. Like at my job, we spray down everything. We have these big spray bottles that you can pump up, and then you can spray it using air pressure. And we have we fill it up with water, and then we pour in like a cap full of bleach, and then we use that stuff to spray down pretty much everything in the gym, and it works really, really well, and it's actually a pretty strong solution. And then so sanitizing companies will be doing really well. And then there's also the streaming services. So Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, whatever yours is, and especially YouTube. Those are going to be prevailing a lot because people can't go out to a movie theater and just watch whatever they want. And especially back in March and April, that was when it was really prevailing because people were still stuck at home with nowhere to go. And I still remember in the summertime, my sleep schedule and my day was pretty repetitive, if I can say so myself. But I actually watched a lot of movies. I revisited a lot of old child Disney movies. We got Disney Plus recently, and we have it still. Might watch a movie later tonight or something, but regardless, that's what we were doing a lot. So we were doing a lot of movie watching, or I was personally, and I watched the entire Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And just a tad bit of controversy here. The newest one was really, really bad, if I have to say so. Like, compared to the other ones, I watched this new one and I was like, this is just really boring. I hate it. Like, it was really boring. The story was like, and the plot line, like, the ending was pretty good. It was like, ooh, wow, this is crazy. And then, like, but the lead up was just not very good. It was done great, but I just didn't like it. Like, compared to the other ones, it was just terrible. But it was a good movie overall. But compared to the other ones, it was not good. So yeah, so a lot of movie streaming services, especially Netflix, are probably doing very, very well. A lot of people out there have probably invested in it. And speaking of investing, my older brother actually did some investing right before the pandemic hit, and the stock market actually was not doing very well. And he had invested a lot of money prior to the pandemic starting, and then the pandemic hit, and everything went way down, and it was like prime time for investing because you could make a lot of money as it went back up. In case you're wondering, I'm invested in Tesla and Amazon. That's not me like taking all my money and investing it. That's me getting birthday presents and then putting it into the stock market. So enough about my boring stocks. Yeah, so a lot of streaming services are probably going to go very, very well, and things like that. But in specific, I think Netflix is going to do very well. But I think it's going to go down a little bit considering the entire Office chain, or I think the Office franchise was just completely taken off Netflix. And I believe a lot of people saw that as a very big controversial problem that Netflix had. So if I were to get Netflix, it would be solely to watch the entire Office series. And now I don't even need it. Well, actually, I do have Netflix. I have access to it, but I don't use it at all because I don't know why. I kind of made a promise to myself a very long time ago that because I've seen so many people get like sucked into TV shows and like be watching them and talking about them all the time, and they're like, "Do you watch this?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't have Netflix," and they're like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah," or I'll be like, "Yeah, I just don't watch TV. I just don't find a reason to." And it's good. It's good for me because, like, I mean, technically it's not really good because I'm watching YouTube all the time anyways. So it's kind of a win-lose because I'm not always looking for like a new episode of a show or left on a cliffhanger. But regardless, it would be nice to have a TV show or something to watch or keep up with. But at the same time, it's good for me because I don't have to look at Netflix all day. In case you're wondering, I'm eating gummy bears. That's why I'm stopping every 5 seconds. So yeah, that's probably about it on prevailing companies. So moving on, we go to new COVID phrases. And as I said earlier, I think the most like prevailing one ever is going to be no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. And even once we're all vaccinated, I'm sure there's going to be like, a lot of policies, like a lot of policies that restaurants will put into place of if you're not wearing a mask, you can't have service there. I think especially restaurants will be putting that into place. And then I think another thing, I had a really good one in my mind, and it just left me, which is just perfectly convenient. Oh gosh, what was it? Let me retrace my mind thought here. So, oh right. So I haven't been like inside of a grocery store to go grocery shopping in literal months. I think the last time I did was in January, February, or March of last year. Can't get it because it's New Year's now. As I was saying, I haven't been in a grocery store for a very long time because it's a place where crowds are just prevailing and all that crazy stuff. And what our family does is we order groceries and then we go and pick it up. And what they do is they come up to the back of our car, pop the trunk, and then just throw the groceries in our car and then we just leave. And it's a great idea, really. But at the same time, it's a complete stranger. Like, no matter how much protective gear they're wearing, you never know, and you always have to wipe down everything that you get. And that's just kind of been a pain. But regardless, it's a much better solution than going in, pushing around a cart, and then touching things, and then possibly not buying them, or touching things that people might have also touched. And it's just a much better solution, but regardless, it's not the safest, or as safe as it could be. Anyways, one of my old coworkers came down recently, but a couple months ago he was telling me that the like loudspeaker that's in the grocery store would be telling you like stay 6 feet apart, wash hands frequently, keep your mask on at all times. And I was kind of like, okay, I think they would know that by now. And regardless if everybody else was wearing a mask, keeping social distance, and sanitizing their hands, I don't think we need an artificial intelligence robot on a loudspeaker to be telling us this. Like, okay, we've had that drilled into us for literal months now. I think we got it. We appreciate it, but we got it. Okay, thanks for the little nudge, but we got it. So a lot of crazy stuff like that going on, but I think that might be for some particularly paranoid business owners. That might be a new thing that pops up. So that's probably going to be it for about new COVID phrases. This is kind of being a short episode. So if you want to make longer episodes, all you got to do is message me on any of my socials. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat right now. If you want to be on an episode in the future, you can message me here. That is my Instagram and my Snapchat handle. So if you want to be on a future episode, or if you want to submit a topic on a future episode, you can totally come on. You can just message me. And if you come on or submit a topic, you can plug anything that you want. You can plug your Instagram, you can plug your Snapchat, you can plug your Clash of Clans clan if you really want to, or you could do any of that. So this is technically a New Year's special, considering that's what last week's was supposed to be, so Happy New Year. And then I need a new logo. So I have a logo for my YouTube channel. That's called The Forgotten Hoodie. And then I need a logo for the podcast. So the optional content show, you can make it the initials. You can make it you can make it talks like TOCH or TOCS. I'm an idiot. You can put them all together. You can layer them over each other. There's no really not really any guidelines except make it like a good square. Shut up, Alexa. You can make it a good square. I want a black background, and then make the lettering nice and vibrant. So if you want to make me a logo for the show, if you do, you'll get a big shout out. And if I ever do make anything with that on it, and it sells very well, then you'll get some compensation. So real quick, the plugs. Please subscribe. It'd make me very happy if I get to 100 subscribers. I'll do something cool. My Instagram and Snapchat is in the chat, so if you want to go follow that, please do. And alright, so that's probably going to wrap up the episode right about there. So keep it tuned right here, Saturdays at 8. We'll be back next week for the second episode of 2021. I already wrote this outro a week ago, so that's why it says that. This is kind of late. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. Thank you for watching, and good night.